beautiful creative souls. Kyla Givehand here. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, I sure hope you'll stick around and hang out with me for a bit. Click that like button and subscribe so you can get notified when I post new content. It is January 3rd, 2025, and I am restarting a series that I loved doing a long time ago and haven't done for a while, but am feeling the call and the tug to do more of in 2025. So I realized that I started and stopped my Fountain Pen Friday series because I have so many things I want to talk about, so many things I can talk about, and I just got overwhelmed by trying to choose and pick. So I thought, I'm going to start with the question that I get the most often. And every Friday, I'm going to show up here with a new video. Every now and then, I might do a live stream on Fridays, but for the most part, this series will be pre-recorded and posted out to you all on every Friday. The first Friday of the month, I'm going to do what I call a Friday feature. And then all the other Fridays will be, of that month, will simply be a Fountain Pen Friday where I talk about a topic, show a pen, or maybe more, and share with you some of the things that I have learned over, oh gosh, I started collecting fountain pens when I was 17. I started using fountain pens when I was about 16, 17 years old. I bought my first fountain pen when I was 17, and I haven't looked back. I am tomorrow turning 52. So it's been that many years, and I have that much, I don't know, information and wisdom about fountain pens that I thought it was high time I got my act together and came here to share with you all. So welcome to the new restart, refresh, reboot of Fountain Pen Friday. This is our first Friday feature, and I am starting with the thing that I get asked so often, which is, what are the best fountain pens for beginners? So I'm excited to kick off 2025 with a special feature Friday episode of Fountain Pen Friday. And if you're new to if you're new to the fountain pen world, today's video is for you. It's also for those of you who have forgotten about your beginner-friendly fountain pens because you've moved on to more elaborate pens, fancier pens, more expensive pens, more nuanced and customized pens. So this is to bring you back to those beginning pens if you've moved on. I'll be sharing my top 5 beginner-friendly pens that are affordable, easy to use, and just ridiculously fun to write with. So with that said, I'm going to cover what I think makes each pen great. I'm going to give you some tips for getting started with picking and choosing your fountain pens. And I'm going to do a quick demo, maybe demo-ish, of how to fill and use them. And I say demo-ish because I probably will be doing more videos on fountain pen inks and different types of nibs. And I mean, listen, I have a list. I'm going to try to organize it, but it may just be hodgepodge. I don't know. I'm just gonna show up here on Fridays, record a video, and get it out to you all, and hope that you love it. So with that said, why don't we get into looking at some of the pens that I love? So I've got supplies. I'm gonna always try to mention the supplies, but listen, y'all, I have a lot of supplies. I've had some of them for years. I may or may not remember all the things, so bear with me. If I don't mention it in the video itself, please make sure you always check down below in the description, because I will do my best to make sure that I give you all, because I'm just grabbing things out of my stash and bringing it to the table. So I will always try to go back and put in the description what I'm using and what I'm showing and sharing with you all. So this is a Franklin Christoph. You'll hear about them soon. Little notebook that I have here. And this is a pen holder from Rickshaw Pens. And I don't know that they still have this one. I would imagine they do, but I feel like this was a beautiful collaboration that they did with a pen maker I'm not sorry, not a pen maker, a fountain pen enthusiast several years ago. So I've had this for a while, but I pulled this out because I thought, well, let me see. I've got 6 pen slots. So I said I was going to do 5, but there's going to be a 6th bonus pen at the end. All right. So let's start off with my all-time favorite pen. It has been tried and true for me for a really, really long time. The Lamy Safari. Lamy. It depends on who you are, how you say that. So I'm gonna start with the with this Lamy, and I want to just say right out of the gate, um, there are lots of knockoffs of this pen. They have this a similar pen style. They've got the little peephole here, ink hole, so that you can see how much ink is in your pen, in your cartridge or converter. And they don't have the Lamy logo though. They won't have the Lamy logo. So if you want the authentic Lamy, make sure you are picking up one that actually has Lamy on it. I love these pens. Um, I should have brought out the one, and I will grab it, but the thing I love about the Lamy Safaris, they're durable. They are workhorse pens. They are sturdy and yeah, just truly durable. I love the grip on them. I guess people would call this ergonomic, this grip section. And I think this is great for beginners because it helps you know where to place your fingers. I often see beginners sort of not sure how to hold a fountain pen. So I feel like that grip on the Lamy gives you exactly, what you need to help you out there. This pen can be used with either a cartridge or a converter, and I'll talk more about that in another video in a little more detail, but just know that the cartridge means it already has the ink in it, and you just pop it into the slot, and you'll see me do that when I demo how to fill these pens. And a converter means that it has if you remember fountain pens from back in the day, then you probably remember the fountain pens that have converters. And I'll show that in a moment. But I really love, I mean, these pens are almost like indestructible. Listen, don't go testing that, okay? Don't try to test it out and prove me wrong. But I feel like they're indestructible because I've dropped them so many times and the nib stays and the pin doesn't crack. And I've just had really great success with them. They're perfect for anyone that's just starting out with fountain pens because I think that they come in a lot of colors. They are roughly between 29, 28, 29, $30, maybe up to about 32, depending on, where you're purchasing it from. But the thing to keep in mind, I think, or the thing that I really love about these pens is that they come in a lot of colors. And every year, Lamy puts out a new color or two, and sometimes three. And so my story with this pen. So let me just do a little peek here because this will be coming later this year a little more fully. I will talk about my Lamy collection of pens. There's quite a few of them. And there's a few not in here uh, because they're in rotation and being used right now. This one will fit right there. That's its little slot. But I have a bunch of them and several more, and even a couple that aren't Lamy Safaris. But this one, this pen is the one that started it all. This is the pen, this brand and this specific pen. This is the one that turned me into a pen collector, a fountain pen collector. Prior to this pen, I just had a few random fountain pens and I wasn't really a student of fountain pens. I wasn't really a true fountain pen connoisseur. I was just like, I was just picking up pens here or there. Oh, I like that one. I like this one. And I wasn't there yet. I wasn't where I am now. I started, which everyone does, with just random pens. But then a student I was teaching 7th grade in Coral Springs, Florida, and a student brought this pen, this specific one, back to me from a vacation that she and her parents went to Brazil. And I was in love instantly when she brought this pen back to me. I mean, just every pen, every fountain pen before this pen for me was a twist pen. It was threaded. The cap was threaded, so you had to twist. And I think the ones I had were like the old school pen. I had to, oh, there was so much twisting. And this one just, and this is the other thing I love about it. It just, it pops off. It's not, it's a snap cap. And I like that a lot. I was in love instantly with this pen, okay? And you can see it's taken a licking. I was never seen without this pen for so long. The nib was buttery smooth to write with. I think I may have replaced this nib since then. I think this, I don't know if this is the original nib. I think it is. But it was buttery smooth to write with. And I loved the shape of this grip section. And the fact that the cap wasn't threaded and I had the ability to see my ink level through this little window, I was sold. And I, as you can tell, have not looked back since then. And I just keep collecting them because I really love these. So the way this pen feels, Lamy also has very specific cartridges that go with them. They have proprietary cartridges, so you can't use a universal cartridge with their pens. It has to be a Lamy cartridge. Now you can use a Lamy converter, which is different. And I don't know if I have a Lamy converter on my table here. But they often make ink colors to match the pens. And I mean, they just have a whole, they know what they're doing over at Lamy, okay? It is a, so when you're using a cartridge, it's already pre-filled for you. And you just take the cartridge and you just, I'll see if you can hear the pop. Probably not. You just pop it in, screw it back together. And I like to take a little paper towel and do a little swirly. I'm not shaking. I'm just kind of swirling. I'm doing it quickly, but this is the motion. I'm just doing it really fast. And for me, that kind of helps. And then I'll just take a paper towel and just kind of wipe the back of the nib. Sometimes I will do a shake like that, like a flick, just to kind of get that ink going. The other thing I really love about Lamys is that they write instantly. Like as soon as you, I mean, they once they start writing and flowing, they flow well. But you got to get it started just like any other fountain pen. So sometimes you just have to do a few swipes, a couple of shakes, and give it a moment. And every now and then I will, oh, there we go. Every now and then I'll find that I can just kind of, you know, dot, dot, dot. I'm not shaking hard. I'm just kind of making sure that ink is getting down there. But the Lamy Safari, once you get the ink going, it doesn't skip. I've never had an issue with skipping. Um, they always write right out of the gate. They always write. Now, of course, when the pen starts running out of ink, it will skip and do things, and that's just your indication that it's out of ink. So that is the Lamy Safari. It's my #1 top go-to beginner-friendly fountain pen. And even if you're not a beginner, you should own a Lamy Safari. They're amazing. All right, so that's the Lamy Safari. Let's move on to a second pen. So the second pen I have here, actually, I've got them. Let's switch that order. I actually want to go to my Pilot Metropolitan next. And that might be the Pilot Metro and the Pilot, uh-oh, let me just do a quick thing here. So the Pilot Metropolitan, and this might be the Pilot Pop because they are very similar. The difference in the names is the difference in the style. So this might be the Retro Pop, I think. But there's a Metropolitan, Retro Pop, but it's still the same pen. So this is Pilot, very great pen company. This is one of their, again, inexpensive. You can probably get this pen for about 20 bucks. This pen also comes as a ballpoint roller ball. But what I love about the fountain pen version, again, it's not a threaded cap, it's a snap cap. It just snaps on and off, really easy. Sleek design. I love it's got a good weight to it. That's another thing for me, the weight of the pen. I'll talk more about that in a future video. But I really love the weight of the Pilot Metropolitan. So the body is really nice. If you like a metal body, but you don't want a metal grip section, this is a great pen for that. The nibs are smooth. If you really like a fine line, they're fine. Pilot's fine is like an extra fine. Their medium is like a fine. Like they have a very thin line. And so if you like that, this is a great pen for that. It just like the Lamy, it has a cartridge or converter option. And what I really love about it is it's kind of an elegant pen. It makes me feel not fancy necessarily, but I don't know, it elevates my writing experience. It's kind of elegant in that way. It's affordable and it's darn reliable. And it's just perfect for everyday writing, just like the Lamy is. It won't fatigue your hand. So great for students, people who need to take notes a lot or do a lot of writing in a writing session. So it's perfect for that. Now, I don't really have like a special story about this pen other than they're workhorse pens. And they used to be super easy to find, like in an office supply store, like Office Depot or Office Max. And all the ones that I own several of them. Let's see if I can pull out a few of my others. I think I even have, that's not one. I think I even have, I know I have a white one somewhere and one other color. And then I bought one for Damon, my husband. So um, I really love these pens. They are just gorgeous and they have this beautiful, they're just really pretty pens, very elegant. So they have, let's see if I have, so this is what the converters look like. And again, Pilot does have a proprietary converter. It's their converter. In fact, I think what I'm going to do, I want to ink up this orange one. But this orange one, so there's three ways. This is what we call a squeeze converter. You squeeze it to get the ink in and up. But I'm actually going to switch this out. I like to keep the cartridge in a pen, even if it's empty and I'm not going to refill it. I like to keep the cartridge in there so that I can always know what cartridge goes with what pen. So that's a little pro tip for you. Always keep your empty cartridge in there so that you don't forget what kind of cartridge goes in your pen. But what I want to do is I'm going to put a refill in. And these go with the Pilot parallel pens, but they also work for these. I know it says exclusive for. Listen, I'm not telling you what to do with your pens. I'm just telling you what I'm doing with my pen. They come in lots of colors. And I think I'm going to go with, I hope this is like an orange. I think it is. We'll see. It's kind of hard to tell in my lighting. Sometimes I'm matchy-matchy with my inks. That's red, I think. And sometimes I just like a color and I want to put it in my pen and I don't fret over it too much. I'm fretting over this one a little bit. I think that's orange. I have a feeling I'm not going to be happy with it, but it runs out. I use it enough and it'll run out. So again, like with the other one, you're just going to pop it in. You'll hear it pop or feel it pop. Just depends on the pen. And let me see, I haven't used this pen in a while, so this one might take a little longer to get it going. I'm going to do another little shake and see if I can't get that going. It's been a while since I've written with this pen, y'all. It may or may not want to work for me. Sometimes you just have to hold it and let the ink flow. It's got to make it down through the barrel into the nib. So sometimes you have to give it a moment. I may have to come back to this one. I may need to let it sit for a minute and let that ink. So we'll come back and look at the ink in it. All right, so I'm gonna sit it there. All right, so we've got Lamy Safari, we've got Pilot Metropolitan, and that Pilot Metropolitan, I think I said it comes in a ballpoint roller ball also, and it's roughly 20 bucks. You can usually get it at like an Office Depot, Office Max, all the ones I have, I bought at stores like that. So I invite you to check those out. The next one is a pen that I did not, for the longest time, I did not like these pens. I can't really tell you why, just something about them. And then they made this one. And I don't know if you can see, my lighting is kind of funky today, but it is like iridescent, pearlescent, really beautiful. I call it the unicorn, Kaweco Unicorn Sport, but I'm pretty sure that's not the actual name of it. But these pens are really cool. They are pocket size, so they're really little. Like seriously, it just fits right in the palm of my hand. And just to give you an idea of the size difference, there it is compared to what I would consider like a standard size fountain pen. Here it is next to the Lamy Safari, right? Which is roughly the same size as a Pilot, a little bit smaller. So you can see that it's a smaller pen, and it's meant to be that. It's a pocket pen, and it's meant to be a pocket pen. So I think that's what I didn't like about it for so long. They feel really light, and yeah, they're just so little. And I was like, why do you need a pen that little? It's so little. But I think this one already has ink in it. Let's see. But what I really love, yeah, it does. So what I really love about this is that it's pocket size, right? It's a smaller pen. I can just grab and go. It's lightweight, which this is the only lightweight pen that I really like. I like my pens to have a little bit of weight to them, but this is a lightweight pen. So for those of you that get writing fatigue, you get hand fatigue when you're writing a lot, this is a great pen for that. It has a cartridge system, and I think that they call this kind of like a classic vintage sort of design. I have now 3 of these, but this is my favorite one. Um, and so it just has kind of like a classic feel with a modern spin. And this particular color is my favorite color. I really love it. And I really want you to be able to kind of see it's got some pink and blue. And I don't know, it just feels kind of like mother of pearl. But I like to call it unicorn. So that is the Kaweco Sport. And it comes in a lot of fun colors and a couple of different nib sizes as well. So that is the Kaweco. I don't have a lot to say about it. It's about a $24 pen. Again, I think that's pretty reasonable there are fountain pens out there that you can buy for much cheaper than this, but the quality of the pen suffers, right? With a price that's really low. So splurge a little bit and get yourself a $25 pen versus a $2 pen and just feel the difference. Maybe you'll see a difference, maybe you won't, but I definitely know a difference and see and feel a difference. So far we've looked at the Lamy Safari. We've looked at the Pilot Metropolitan, and now we've looked at the Kaweco Sport. Now I'm going to stay with Kaweco for a moment because that pen, as much as I did not want to have, I didn't feel like I needed to own a pocket size, little, small, lightweight pen like this. I did love when they came out with the Kaweco Perkio. And I love these pens. They are amazing. They are the perfect size, so you can see that they're bigger than the pocket. Not a lot bigger, but enough that it makes a difference. To me, it does. But they still have that sort of classic beveled all the way around. The pen body is beveled all the way around. It's a snap cap. Now, this one was the first threaded cap where you have to twist. It has the threads here on the cap. All the others I've shown so far have been snap cap, and this is also a snap cap. So I love that about it. Also, this pen comes in a lot of beautiful colors, and I really love, in fact, let me just show you. Let's see, I think I have a couple in here. No, maybe more than a couple. But what I really love is that you can, you could switch these out if you wanted to. Right? You can play around with the colors and get funky if you want to. I really love that about these pens. I could even decide that I want to have this as the body with this as the top, right? Like I could do like a Franken pen. And I love that about it, that I could interchange them. And I guess technically I could do that with my Lamys, but for whatever reason, this pen lends itself to that. I don't know why I've never done that with my Lamys, but this pen just makes me feel like I should try that. So it's a really cool pen. And this is the Kaweco Perkio. I'm just going to put all these back together. And then I'll talk a little bit about this pen. So I really like this pen. This is actually my favorite one, this little pink and black one. But these are, that's the one I'm working with. These are awesome little pens. And I really love them. And they come in a bunch of other colors than the ones I have here, but I haven't collected very many of them. So what I love about this pen, it's roughly in that $18 to $25 range. Again, depending on where you get it from, it's pretty inexpensive. It has that same thing I was talking about with the triangular grip where it kind of shows you where to put your fingers, which I think is helpful for beginners. It's lightweight, the body is plastic. So, for me, a beginner-friendly pen is also a pen that if you dropped it or you somehow, I don't know, dropped something on it, just weren't careful, I don't think you would like be too disappointed. I have some pens that if I dropped them or something happened to them, I would be extremely heartbroken. My Perkio is not one of them. I love these pens. They're workhorse pens, but I wouldn't be sad. This is also the first pen that I'm showing you that has what is called a converter. So everything else has been a cartridge, but a converter allows you to ink up the pen with this mechanism here. And I'm going to show you how to do it in a moment. I'm going to show you two different ways that I like to do it, and I'll talk about each of those. And I have not inked this pen in a really long time, so we'll see. But that is a converter. The other thing I love about this is it has this like modern, to me, I don't know, I keep using the word modern as if, that really means anything in this moment, but it has, it doesn't look like a vintage pen, but it has all of the things that I love about Kaweco. I love this nib. This is a really great nib. I love the way the nib looks. It has a really beautiful, and mine has ink all over it right now, but when it's not all inky, it's just a really beautiful nib. I love the size. I love the sort of shape of it. A really great nib. It's comfortable to hold and it writes really smooth and it comes in a lot of beautiful colors. So I think it's a great one for people who are like, you want to have a lot. The other thing I love about it is it's a great pen for sketching. Many of my pens are, including my Safaris, but I feel like the Perkios, There's something about that nib that just and this grip section that really lends itself to like a lot of sort of sketching and hash marks if you're like a someone who uses your fountain pens for sketching things out or for like urban sketching or being out in the world and sketching. If your pen fell on concrete, I don't think you would be too disappointed, and these are easily replaced, right? So I think that these pens just add some personality to your writing repertoire. I don't know. It's just I love them. So I put this on the list as one of the five. So I'm actually going to go ahead and fill this one up. Use a paper towel here that I already started with that has some ink on it from a previous pen fill. And I'm going to be putting in this one some, I won't be able to pronounce this very well, Roher and Klinger, some sketch ink called Thea. It's kind of a grayish, it's supposed to mimic graphite. And so let's see if I can get it open without too much muss and fuss. Now, there are many people in the pen world who do not like to get their pens stained. And then this is again for me, this pen is okay. It's fine if I get a little staining on it. I'm not gonna, stress out too much about that. You could also take some fountain pen people are cringing right now, but you could take out the converter, wind it all the way down, stick it right into the ink, and sorry, pull that all the way up, stick it down in the ink, and then bring that ink up. And I think that's actually how I'm going to do it. And people will do that if they don't want to stain this portion, because if you're going to fill the pen the proper way, you do need to get that hole submerged into, you need to get the little filler hole submerged into the ink so that you can draw up ink into the pen. Um, but I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to take this. Sometimes I'll put it in the cap, but I'm just going to dip this down into the ink, make sure it's submerged, and I'm going to go up, bring the ink up, and then I'm going to twist it back down. And then I'm going to bring the ink up, and then I'm going to twist it back down. And this is just me sort of pumping the air out. I'm going to bring it up, and then I'm going to put it back down. And I'm going to do that about 3 times, and then I'm going to draw my ink into my pen. So now I have a full cartridge, sorry, a full converter. Pro tip, close your ink and move it out of the way. I have plenty of stories about that. And then I'm going to take that and snap it into place. Put my pen back together. And then I'm going to spend a little bit of time, because I didn't do it the traditional way, I am going to spend a little bit of time just sort of working that ink down into the nib. Because if I had done it the traditional way, I would have drawn the ink up through the nib, right? So that's just an alternative way. But again, it's also been a while since I've inked this pen, so I'm going to do a little bit of this is again a little bit of alcohol mixed in with water that I'm just misting lightly. Right now it feels like mostly air is coming out. There we go. I'm like, is there anything coming out? I don't know. So that cleaned off my nib, and also, let's see, maybe got my ink going. The other thing you can do to get your ink going if you feel like you're having some issues is just ever so lightly push some of that air out, and you'll start to see the ink come up in on the back of the pen. You all maybe can't see it because of my lighting right now, but I'm just pushing just to get that air out. And as soon as I see the ink peek in, I'm going to reassemble the pen and see if I can't get it going. There it is. I think that'll do it. Let's see. And again, this is the Kaweco Perkio. So the first one was the Sport, and this one is the Perkio. And we're just going to give it a moment. Sometimes that ink is slow to draw down. And this is the benefit of drawing the ink up through the nib, is that the nib is already saturated and sort of charged and ready to go. But when you don't do that, you have to coerce it down. You have to really cajole it, convince it to come on down. So I'm going to give that a moment to find its way down. And I'm going to move on to the next 10. All right. So we've got 4 pens so far. The 5th pen is my second favorite pen on the planet. It's trying its best to be my first favorite pen, but it's I don't think any pen will ever beat out Lamy, especially not when I'm talking about pens for beginners. And so my 5th pen is the TWSBI Eco. And I put this one last because it is a beginner-friendly pen, but it is for the adventurous beginner, okay? And the reason I say that is because I've shown you cartridge filled, converter filled is what I just showed you with the Perkio. And this is actually what we call a piston filling mechanism. And so the pen, it has a threaded cap. So first and foremost, it is a threaded cap, but it's one of the easiest threads I know. It's like 1, 2, and it's out. I have some pens that it takes like 6 turns to unthread them. But that, to me, 2 turns, 1, 2, is an easy thread. So this is the TWSBI Eco White. And I really love my TWSBIs because, again, it's another pen that has some really beautiful colors and are great for if you want to collect them. You can get lots of great colors. There's a few of mine. And so I really love that I can see here. I'll keep this out. I love that I can see my inks. I can see how much ink. And because it's piston filling, meaning you're going to turn this, you're going to treat this whole thing behaves like a converter that I just showed you. So you're going to turn this to activate this mechanism, and this is going to pull or push ink, right? And so I love that clear body. I love that I can see exactly how much ink. This thing can hold a lot of ink, a lot of ink. And so that's one of the things I love about it. The piston filling mechanism just makes you feel like you've elevated your pen game. And then this clear demonstrator is amazing because then you can see your ink. And so I love to fill my, you'll notice, you may or may not be able to see this on the screen, but a lot of my Ecos have shimmer inks in them because I love to see that shimmery ink moving around in the pen when I write. Yes, I know, very geeky, nerdy. I accept it and embrace it. So I love that about it. I love that it has that clear demonstrator in their body that I can see my pen, and it just holds so much ink. It's crazy pants how much ink it holds. I can write for months with this with this pen, and I'm a daily writer. Okay, so it holds a lot of ink. You get a lot of bang for your buck. This pen is about $32 to about $35, depending. Now there are some out there. They have a white one that has rose gold accents. I don't own that one, but that one's a little more pricey, maybe about 40 bucks, right? So 32 to $40, depending on which one you get. And so I think that this pen is just amazing. Now, I also think it has a really great grip section for, it's just easy on the hands. It's a little bit slimmer than the body of the pen. And these, when I say workhorse pens, what I mean by workhorse pens is as soon as I take it out, it's ready to work. I don't have to do a lot of priming and pumping, and it's just ready. It just writes. And I love that. Um, and the nibs are gorgeous. They write beautifully. And I like different types of nibs. So I have fine, Twisbees, medium, and broad. I think I even have a Twisbee that has what we call a stub nib. And I'll do a video about nibs. So this one is a stub nib, which means I'm gonna get a bit of a thicker line, and it's almost gonna be calligraphy, like calligraphy. Right, so you can see that that nib has a bit of a stub on it, sort of like squared off instead of pointy. And so I really love that about these. And I'll talk, like I said, I'll talk more about nibs in another video. So Twisby does have other pens besides the Ecos, but we'll talk about those another day. For a beginner friendly, so adventurous beginner for the Twisbies, an adventurous beginner, because you have to let yourself get comfortable with that filling mechanism. Okay. All right, so I did that and I was like, okay, those are the 5 pens I would say are beginner pens. But then there is this one pen that I really love, and you're gonna hear me talk, say some crazy things about it, but let's do it. So I've already showed you a Pilot, Metropolitan Pilot Retro Pop. This is a Pilot Plumix. It is a plastic pen through and through, and it has a calligraphy nib. And this pen, I don't care who you are, I don't care how bad you think your handwriting is. If you slow down and write with this pen, it will make your handwriting look gorgeous. And that's one of the reasons I want to see beginners have a beautiful and pleasant experience when they write. And that's why I brought the Pilot Plumix out as my bonus pen. This pen is about 25 bucks. I have even seen it in a set of 3 for about $30. So that's about $10 a pen if you get the 3-pack. I know it comes in black, purple, and one other color, maybe all clear. But it is a really great, friendly, beginner-friendly pen because it's just so easy to write with it and get your writing to look beautiful. So I'm going to pop in a new cartridge for that one. See if I can find a purple in here. That looks purpley. So again, Pilot pens have their own cartridge. They are proprietary. And just like any others, you're going to pop it in. And you kind of let that ink drip down in. Go ahead and put on your, just reassemble the pen. And I like to just give it a little shake, but also give it a moment. Sometimes it just takes the pen a minute to get going. I also like that you can post the cap. You'll hear me talk about that. I'm gonna do a video on like the things I love and don't love about fountain pens. Let's see how long that one takes to get it going. While that one's trying to work its way down, I'm gonna just stand it up and let it do gravity do its thing. Let's see what's happening with our Pilot over here. Let's see if we have any action on that. Not feeling anything happening. All right, so while I am doing this, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap up by telling you that some of my favorite tips for beginners. First of all, when you're choosing your first pen, pick one that feels good in your hand. If you can't, go to the store and actually get the pen and fill it and write with it and at least just hold it in your hand. Then, take a chance online and see what you can find. But for me, fountain pen shows are amazing because you can test out pens, you can try different nibs, you can feel the weight of the pen in your hand, you can see what it feels like to hold it, um, it just gives you a different experience. But you can also buy it online and see what happens and make sure you pay attention to the return policy of pens because, you know, you don't want to get a pen and then you get it home and you're like, oh my God, this kind of sucks. I don't like how it writes, or the nib is scratchy, because some people like really scratchy nibs and some people like me like their nibs to be smooth with no scratch. So that's my first tip, is if you can get the pen and hold it in your hand and really feel it, that's the first thing. Um, Make sure it's within your budget. Like, don't feel like you have to start with a $500 pen. In fact, I would tell you, if you've never written with a fountain pen and you start with a $500 pen, that's a big investment for something that you may or may not be comfortable, using and writing with. I'm going to be doing some videos about ink, but I would always say to a beginner, always start with, for beginners, I'd say start with cartridges. Cartridges, there's nothing like embarrassing about starting with cartridges. I love Lamy cartridges. I have almost every color they've ever made in a cartridge. Um, some that I covet because they were limited edition colors. But a cartridge is a great place to start is with pens, because there are things called universal cartridges, and a universal cartridge does have, you can use it in almost every pen except, I mean, I did show you some exceptions here. Pilot has their own type of cartridge, so does Lamy. But for things like Kaweco and a lot of other pens out there, you can use what is called a universal cartridge. So you can get all sorts of colors. I'll show you in a later video as well a couple of hacks around working with cartridges, so stay tuned for that. But tips, pick one that feels good in your hand, try the pen out, make sure it matches your budget and fits your budget so that you aren't treating the pen super precious because you overspent on it. Start with cartridges. You can get a lot of different ink varieties with cartridges. They're less messy also, and you can experiment. And then the paper. I'm going to do a whole series conversation, multiple videos on paper, because fountain pen friendly paper makes a difference. Grabbing a piece of paper out of your printer and using a fountain pen will give you a very different experience than working with something like Tomoe River paper, which is what I have in this little handmade journal that I made. The ink just glides differently, it absorbs differently. You never want to use a pen that had a paper that has coating on it. So we're not talking about paper in this specific video, but I want to mention that because some papers are going to cause your pen ink to bleed through or to feather, and you won't get the same effect and joy, I think, if you have a fountain pen friendly paper. All right, so those are some of my big tips. My 5 favorite pens, and I hate that I didn't get to write with all of them for you. But I have not written with some of these pens in a very, very long time, y'all. And sometimes it just takes a moment. There's a part of me that's like, blooper, get this off the video, but I'm going to leave it in because I want you to see that even as somebody who uses fountain pens every single day, I use a fountain pen every day. Um, I still have to take a moment and be really patient to get the ink to draw down into the nib. Don't overextend the nib. Just going to open up the tines a little bit and let some of that ink try to flow down. And it's just not wanting to cooperate. I'm going to do the same thing with my Pilot and see if I can't get it going. I've already forgotten what color ink I put in this pen. So it'll be fun to see if it ever writes for me. Look at that. It just needed a little help. Now this one is a fine nib, so that line is super fine, but it's really great for people who like to, sketch and have those really, really super thin, super skinny lines. And you can see the difference in like this line and the line with my Twisby and the line with the Lamy. right? It's just a completely different lime. So the nib does matter. And this one's already starting to, there we go. So this one is great for, these little, I think this is a fine. It might be an extra fine, but no, I see fine. It's a fine. All right, so that is the pilot. And it is still a little clogged. The pen is probably clogged, if I'm being honest, y'all, because I just haven't used it in a long time. All right, and last but not least, are we gonna get this pilot flummox working for us? I have a feeling we're not. I have a feeling it's just super clogged and it doesn't want to do that. I want to persuade it. There we go. So the thing about these pens is if you hold it at a bit of an angle, it just makes your handwriting look beautiful. You got to go a little slow, but right, you can get some beautiful calligraphy sort of lines with it. And you all are probably not really seeing that very well. Because the pen is already it already has I think it's like a 1.1 nib. And so you really just can't write badly with this pen. So it's a great pen for beginners. All right, we got them all working. Everybody's inked, and I'll need to use these this week so that the inks don't get crazy. So just to recap, we have a Lamy Safari. We have a Pilot Metropolitan or Pilot Retro Pop, the Kaweco Sport, the Kaweco Perkio, and the TWSBI Eco. And as a bonus pen, the Pilot Plumix. So those are my top 5, 6 favorite pens for beginners. I will always, always list these as the 5, unless, of course, some new pen comes along. I do have a couple of pens that I'll be trying out for the first time in 2025 that I've had since 2024, but I just haven't had time to play with them. So I'll see if those pens feel like they could replace any of these, but for now, these are my favorite 5 pens for beginners, no matter where you are on your journey, no matter which one you choose, I think you're going to be in for a great creative journey with these pens. So do me a favor, let me know in the comments if you've tried any of these 6, or if you're planning to get your first fountain pen this year. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me next Friday for more fountain pen fun. Take care, everybody, and thank you for sticking around. See you soon. Bye.